link to the recording, which usually goes out about it. For those of you that are attending and starting to, yeah, I still see audience building. For those of you that are attending, you'll get a link to this recording you can share with your team, usually within 2 hours of the broadcast, sometimes less. All right. And it's 11 o'clock Central, where I am in Nashville. It's 12 noon Eastern time. Welcome. I'm Mike Blinder. I'm the publisher of ENP Magazine. And welcome to this, what we call a sponsored webinar, where we do case studies with our marketing partners. One of our marketing partners that not only works with us to amplify their message to the news publishing industry is NOTA. I have their CEO, Josh Brando, with us. Hey, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Mike. Happy to be here again.
As full disclosure, it's not only a marketing partner, but it's a tool we use at ENP, which we may demo in the next few minutes of our journey as we explore this product. For those of you that are on Zoom with us, please feel free to start a dialogue in Q&A. We'll keep keeping our eyes on that. We've got a team in there keeping their eyes on that. They'll give you relevant links. But make sure that when you're making a comment, make it for everyone so we can have some kind of a dialogue. With that being said, I'd like to first introduce our two case study panelists before we explore the product. And Dan Boniface, Digital Director at the Denver Gazette. Dan, welcome to the program. With your kind permission, could I just get the elevator pitch on who you are, the audience size, the size of your team, all that and more, if you don't mind, sir? Give us a little rundown.
Sure, yeah. The Denver Gazette is basically a digital newspaper here in the Denver market. We're fairly new, been around just over 3 years. We're also in the same company as the Colorado Springs Gazette, which is sort of the paper of record down in Colorado Springs. And then we have some other websites in Colorado. We have coloradopolitics.com. We also have Out There Colorado, which is more of an outdoors site. Basically, our ownership saw an opportunity in Denver, thought that we could expand and challenge the Denver Post, where I worked for over a decade. So I joined up with the Denver Gazette, and we're trying to grow our digital subscriptions, trying to grow our audience. Having had sort of good insight into what the Denver Post audience is like. We're smaller, but we are certainly growing and challenging. I think for some market share with them. And we're really focused on doing good journalism. We won 25 SPJ awards last year, and then across our full group, we won 45 SPJ awards, which was most in the state. So yeah, it's probably more of an elevator pitch than an elevator pitch.
Tell us about the size of your news operation. Is it all in one building? Is everybody working remote? How many full-times? How many stringers?
Because we have the different properties, we do share some staff across the board. So we have the coloradopolitics.com website. So we use a lot of that political coverage in both Denver and in Colorado Springs. Same with the sports staff. Professional sports coverage plays well in both markets. So we do have some sharing, but in terms of just like Denver, we probably have maybe 20 people on staff in the newsroom here.
What is your content management system, if I may ask?
Yeah, we are using Town News blocks.
Okay, cool. Very familiar with it. They're also, full disclosure, a marketing partner of ENP Magazine. All right, Lacey, Link Media. Now, I explored you today. But Lacey, full disclosure, I live in Nashville. My wife's mother lives in just outside of Dayton. So I'm always driving up through Kentucky, obviously. Yeah. And you're Northern Kentucky, which means you're, if I may be so bold, are you a suburb of Cincinnati pretty much? Just that, okay, between the airport there and the city is a whole mess of people, right? And you serve.
Yes, we are a whole mess. That
Yeah, I
is
mean,
true.
it's huge. It's a big, I mean, you get massive traffic there too, and all that and more.
Yes, yeah, the Brent Spence and all of that.
So describe your
busiest
DMA
streets.
and your team and what you guys do there and all that and more, please.
Sure. So yeah, we're a startup. We were founded 2.5 years ago to cover Northern Kentucky, which is the 3 northernmost counties that are part of the Cincinnati MSA. And so it's 3 counties, 36 separate cities, 17 school districts.
Yeah.
We have 405,000 residents in these 3 counties that we cover. And we are in that weird space where the Cincinnati media doesn't really cover us. And so we really struggled to have a voice for our part of this community, either in Frankfurt with state government or here in the tri-state. And so, yeah, we were founded 2.5 years ago. We have 12 full-time staff and about 24 contributors in the community. We have content sharing agreements with some statewide publications and also with the ABC affiliate here in the Cincinnati market. So we've really tried to play bigger than we are and develop some great content sharing relationships with other publications, other organizations. We do not have a paywall, and we're kind of an unusual organization because we're a for-profit, but we have a fiscal sponsor. So we have both a blend of for-profit and nonprofit happening.
Excellent. I was wondering about that because I noticed in your I can contribute to you, but you also sell advertising, right? I mean,
yes, we do.
Both ways. And how large is your team? How many people are now operating, creating content for you?
So yeah, it's 12 FTE. 3 of those are sales. So we have 9 editorial staff, and then about 24 1099 contributors who are covering, the cities here and the city governments.
CMS is WordPress, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, Newspack. So yeah, we work with
Newspack. Excellent. Another one we're familiar with. All right, now let me see if I can. Now, Josh, I know you like to take over and run things, but if with your Josh Brando, you are the CEO, co-founder of an amazing product, which I'd like to demo first. Or actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off, and then as you describe it, I had an idea here. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to show you the current issue of E&P magazine. There it is. It's coming up on the screen. Here's the cover. Now, we publish this magazine, and we write for it each month. However, we generate much more content that we do in print. But we run some exclusive content in the magazine, and then we release it every single day online, a different exclusive piece of content from our newsroom, which is about 12 that are contributing from all over. We have no offices. We all work remote. When we release, this is the story in question. There it is. We have it in our section called Quick Reads. It's just a little thing about notice. We do these at about 750 to 1,000 words. We generated about 8 of those a month, along with some much bigger enterprise journalism and other things we call voices, what have you. The challenge is we know when we create a magazine, there are certain headlines and certain ways stories should be laid out to have that casual, wonderful print experience, Josh, just flipping the pages and enjoying. But that's not exactly how you would want that story possibly to go out to an email database now of 35,000 plus, which this story on Notice will go out tomorrow morning. Those on this webinar are now knowing that's the story you'll be in your inbox tomorrow morning in what we call our exclusive email. With that being said, I'm going to stop sharing. Maybe let Evan pick this thing up. Evan, you're going to be driving. I sent Evan this story, the link to it in our content management system. Full disclosure, we're using a company called Creative Circle Media to show what I'll be using. Now, maybe I'd underuse this product, but Evan, what I do is I basically just plug it in on some to start, right? I mean, I just take that. All right, you already found it. So you now have populated that page with my story.
I pulled your link in, grabbed all the copy from that particular article you shared with me, simply hit generate. And let me jump into, well, this will come through. We should have picked your brand, but 1 second. It still works. It just doesn't have your brand.
The brand, I mean, we did establish our brand in your back end, but this is the most important part. The headline I want for that story has got to be very SEO friendly. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm a nerd and I've been playing on the internet ever since 1998. The headline is like the number one thing Google is tracking first, and I have massive Google authority. When I put a story up
Yes,
on
you
ENP,
do. That's very true.
when I put a story up on ENP, we're number one in Google News within 5 minutes. I mean, that's how strong our authority is with all the backlinking that's been coming to us for decades. Well, not decades, but yeah, decades on Google. So I need to change the headlines sometimes. Also, not that I'm a click freak and go for clickbait, Josh, but my mission is to get the damn thing clicked, right? It's different than turning a page of a magazine. Am I saying that correctly? I mean, this is going to be a post for tomorrow. What do you think of those headlines it generated compared to because the other one we had was pretty different? Are you comfortable with those?
So, I mean, that's 15 questions, right? So I think all of the answer is it's less that I'm comfortable with it and more that this is optimized for exactly what you'd want to do for domain authority organically from a search perspective. So part of the reason we built this company out of the Los Angeles Times was there's a Slack channel, and I'm sure many of you on this Zoom have a Slack channel called Headlines. And there's a lot of debate between journalists and editors about those headlines, but they're not really based on any of the SEO best practices. So what we see is a lot of time spent on clever headlines or headlines they think that get to the, the nature of the story in a better capacity, but that's not really what you're serving the wrong audience by spending your time doing that. So what we're providing you here is opportunity for you to select from these, edit these in any way you want, and then push these out and have a better chance of really getting that organic traffic. And
how do you do that? You're using
reaching a large audience.
You're using AI to do this. In other words, this is all real time. You now know from the content of that story within a few seconds what words and keywords and ways that are getting the best possible SEO, and you're helping us create that instantly. Do I have that right, sir?
That's right. So it provides you with the opportunity to edit a lot of different selections that we just showed you. You can continue to refresh it and have different ideas if that's more your speed, or you can just take what you have there and edit it. But on the back end, the power of this new technology is that we take the best practices that are happening on a moment by moment basis, combine that with machine learning and artificial intelligence, see what all of the other folks that are using our tools, we have over 100 publishers using our tools now, are doing and seeing in the marketplace. And very soon, we're also integrating real-time updates from Google and Bing into the selection process and into the content creation process for this headline. So there's a ton of stuff happening on the back end with our data scientists to make your options for a headline appear for you.
Now, this is what we first do, is we look at the headlines you generate, and then 99% of the time, we just grab the one that we think is the best. Now, stay on that page for just a second. The article summary, we use the term lead at ENP. I want you to do me a favor, Evan. We're real time now. Go up and grab a web page and go to the homepage of Editor and Publisher. It's editorandpublisher.com. If you don't mind, you may even, I'm so glad you're a fan and it was already in there. Now, notice whenever we see that top block that today features Guy Tasaka, our tech writer and head of tech for our company, under that is the lead. Now, that lead is critical. Our homepage, opposite of most newspaper pages, I believe when I used to consult newspapers, story pages always got. Our homepage has like 4,000 visitors a day. It's like everybody's morning show, and we keep it that. We even have live stock quotes on it, all that kind of stuff. That lead is critical. Do you see what I'm saying? The right rail is all updated content 24/7. That lead, now go back to your tool. We don't generate that lead. Do you understand? For the magazine, it's not necessary. It's because the magazine doesn't need a lead. You're flipping the pages. This will be tomorrow's homepage lead. And why and how did that get generated, Josh? Where did that come from, if I may?
So the answer to that is, I think, pretty important for us to distinguish ourselves. So it comes from our own large language model that is trained very transparently on a lot of our clients' databases, and then also through a ton of work from our data scientists over the last 2 years. So what we've created is an AI, much like OpenAI or Gemini or whatever you may be using on the back end or playing around with in your own organization, but we've created one specifically for our industry. So what that means is the outputs are assistive, and they're also very specific to the needs of article summarization for professionals, right? So it's not built for content marketing. It's not built for you to cheat on your research paper. It's built specifically for our industry. And it's also extractive. And by extractive, I mean, it takes something that has already been created by a media professional, by a journalist, by an editor, by an audience team member, and uses that as the base for the summarization. So what that means is, a lot of the hallucinations you're seeing in the marketplace, if you're using tools on your own, a lot of the things that they're making up isn't really the case for us. That's a lot rarer. I'm not going to say it never happens, but it's happening on a percentage basis that's far less than 1%. So what you can see is the ability to summarize something that you've already created, if we're using this as an example of article summarization, and then you go in, look at it, make sure it's right, and then absolutely edit it to make sure that it's exactly in your tone of voice and what you want, but it saves you all of that time.
I have asked ChatGPT to create leads for me just for fun, and they suck. I'm not saying, I know it's going through another regeneration and it'll get better in time. And I've tried to train it on who we are, what our magazine is. I've tried to upload 1 million articles, and it doesn't do this job for me. This is why we find you, because leads are everything to us, because you'll notice all over my content pages are little paragraphs that direct people into those story pages. Now, this is pretty much where we stop at E&P. We don't go on to the, I know there is so much more that this thing can do, but this is very critical to us because it helps us turn our operation into a much more SEO friendly and better functioning operation at a blink of an eye. I'm giving you that kudos. Yay, yay, Josh. Now let's turn to our panelists, if we may, if we could, and get an idea of how deep they're going into this. Maybe we could circle back to the Denver Gazette. If that's okay with you, Evan, I know you're driving, and give us an idea of how you're using more or how you use this tool to generate your content.
Yeah. So primarily our use case with NOTA is going to be for headline and SEO help. We do use it a little bit for ideas on social. How we want to share a story. We do a little bit with creating videos and things like that. But primarily it's going to be just what you guys were looking at right there. Putting in a story, preferably before it gets published, and running it through the sum tool, getting ideas for headlines, getting ideas for SEO. In the sum tool, there's the one called Slug, and we use that as sort of like a jumping off point for what would my Google keyword phrase be for this story, because it's these are typically really close to what you would type into a search engine if you were trying to find the story itself. So we did a whole big staff training on how to sort of use the sum tool to generate better SEO on your story. And so far it seems like it's paying dividends. So that's kind of the overview of how we're using it.
All right, see, my CMS generates our slugs instantly, and you don't have a print product. You're not like me, where your editorial team has written an exclusive piece of content for a magazine, and then you want to make sure it's optimizing when your stories are created, they're created for a digital only output, correct, sir? That's what
so we do have an e-edition that we lay out like a newspaper every day, but from a workflow perspective, typically we're going to be starting on the website format, and that's like our primary initial place that it's going to be published. And so yeah, we are focusing on how can we reach the biggest audience, and typically using this tool to try and nail the headline, nail the SEO. That's a really big part for us.
Wow. Now look at the right here. This is amazing. Okay, now you're in brief. This is this tool that we're starting to experiment more and more. We're still, Josh, Josh, I feel guilty. They're still using E&P, the same story, but I love it. It's tomorrow's story. Brief.
Yeah, well Mike, Yeah, just to address your question, we have seen quite a few of our print publications or publishers who have both digital and print leverage the brief tool for, eating up some space in their print, publication where they don't have the space to write an entire article, but still want to get that information out to their print population. So our brief tool gives you the opportunity to create that SEO optimized headline. You can get your article summary, and then you can also add some key points that, are relevant to the article as well, just to provide that synopsis or snapshot for the reader to get the gist of what the story is about. You also have the capability to edit this article summary to whatever length you'd like as well. So we start on the longer side and then allow you to kind of shave it down to your use case.
I am one of the things I did at ENP based on our initial research was they call me pull quote Mike. I will not let anything go online without a face and a pull quote. Does that make sense? If you actually analyze my magazine and look online, you're going to see hundreds and hundreds of faces a month. I'm into faces because it works. People like to see the faces. You generate pull quotes too. I forgot, where was that? Was that in some?
Yeah, that was a sum tool. So
you actually can go through it. Now, this is important. He is actually just copying and pasting the URL of the story. And in a matter of like 20 seconds, all this is starting to show up, including my suggested pull quotes. Josh, how did you pull? Is that just pulling the content? Is it using AP style backgrounds to make sure everything's pretty? I mean, how is this all? Is it just simple generative AI?
It's not simple, but yes, it's generative AI, and it's getting a lot better now that we have vectoring and computer vision, which is a bunch of fancy ways of saying that we can identify the actual quotes in an article in a new capacity, pull from that, weight that against what we normally would see from a summarization standpoint, and provide you with those options. So this is the AI's best understanding of what would be the most important quotes from the article itself to present you.
The other problem we have is tagging.
Everyone has this problem because it's a terrible, boring thing that no one wants to do.
It takes forever,
but it's super important. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you sometimes, like when I first took over the magazine, I used news publishing all the time because I figured that's who we are. But it turns out after I did some research, no one tags at news publishing. They use news media. Do you follow? So these tags are not just suggested by the content. They're also suggested by what will work the best in order to get the best audience. Am I correct? You're
That's right. It's aligned more with the actual aspects of the article itself, and then it gets lighter and lighter as it goes more longer tail. So there's more likelihood that people are going to be searching for Notice than there is for Casey Murray, for example.
Let's swing ourselves to Northern Kentucky, if we may. And I understand you have it. Let's get away from ENP if we could, Josh, since you're driving here. And can you
absolutely
let's not Josh, I meant Evan's driving. You're talking. Let's find a story. Okay, here we are. So Lacey, this is one of your stories right here, May 15th. This is today's story, correct?
It is. I haven't even seen this one yet. So here we are.
Yeah. So one of the ways we also provide our tool set. So Mike, what we were just showing you was our dashboard tools. So everyone who signs up with NOTA has access to our dashboard tools, which include 6 different tools that you can leverage within our tool set. We also have an integration with WordPress and Newspack. And so as an editor or publisher is writing an article, they can come down here to the bottom of the article, see the NOTA tools here live.
This is great. Yeah.
And then essentially help you optimize your content pre-publish. So this is a way for us to really just ensure that you're checking all the boxes in terms of SEO and best practices prior to pushing something out, so you can get that most organic reach possible. And again, everything that you see here is completely editable. We're just providing you with best practice suggestions. You can manipulate them as you see fit to match the tone and tenor of your particular organization. But quick teaser, we are releasing a brand new tool here in the very near future called Tone Builder that will allow you to create a tone specific to your organization's writing style. So as you generate these outputs, you can apply that tone to your outputs so that they look pretty much exactly as you would write them as the person at the organization, to minimize any additional editing you would need to do pre-publish.
Does it learn this over time from different articles to get that quote unquote tone? Is that how that's generated? Because
It's a few ways, yeah. So we will allow the user to upload content that they believe represents the tone, and then we will also continue to train on that as they continue to, run articles through our tool set.
see ChatGPT, again, I'm talking about me, but I'm in the midst of this, has been awful at that. I've uploaded, I've yelled at it, I've screamed at it. I said, when I described EMP to it, put up all the different, history of our publication, it tries to impress me with 19-syllable words. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and I can't retrain it. I've gone to news groups to try to learn. This will learn my tone. Because remember, I talk to very, 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 I have, readers that read AP style books before they go to bed. I have to make sure the tone is there. This is fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it really stems from the request, rightfully so, that it's different, all of these professionals like Dan and Lee, I mean, there's a specific way, there's a specific vision you have for your publication in the world. And it shouldn't just be general news tone. It should reflect the personality of your brands. So we wanted to make sure that we created something that allowed that to happen. And then we also got a lot of feedback that was a little more like, hey, this gets me 80% of the way to what I would want to do, but I have to edit everything still. So how do I get way closer to 90, 95% of this? And I just review and say yes. And that's what Tone Builder, we hope, provides everyone as well. So we're getting, it's, as we talked about at the very beginning, this is still the first or second inning of this technology, but it's getting really good.
I'm surprised we're not getting a little bit more conversation in our chat room now. Remember, or the Q&A, either room. We're keeping an eye on both. But here's the question. Isn't anyone out there about to say, how dare you? We get that a lot at ENP, the resentment of the fact that some of this is taking away a human element. Maybe Josh taking away a job that someone deserves to do this task. I'm playing devil's advocate. I hope you don't mind, Josh, but that's,
please do.
I mean, I could speak to that if you want, Mike.
I want you to speak to that.
Yeah. So at Link, we literally use all of this, right? So what Evan is doing in NOTA Proof to make sure that our SEO is good, our social posts, all of that. And it is not taking away anybody's job. Our digital editor is still reading every single piece of content that we have. Our reporters are still out there reporting. What they're not doing is spending 20 minutes agonizing over a headline. What they're not doing is spending, 3 hours trying to put together a video. They can do it in 5 minutes with NOTA. And so what it has done is it has freed our staff up to do the truly human creative work and not try to memorize the algorithm, not try to memorize what slugs are going to work and, what Google wants from us this week, which is different than what Google wanted from us last week, and it'll change again next week. And so for us, it has been really a force multiplier for our staff to be able to take the content, the coverage that we're already doing in this market, make it more accessible, make it perform better on social media so people can actually find it, and free them up. I always say, let robots do robot work and humans do human work. And I know AI is not a robot, but that's what I visualize in my head when I think about this. And that's genuinely what it has allowed us to do. Not take away jobs, just make the jobs that we have better.
All right. So now I've already, first of all, Bill Ostendorf, who the founder of Creative Circles is on. Bill says chat is disabled. If it is, we'll keep ourselves in Q&A. And I'll try to figure out how to disable chat. My apologies to the audience. Another question, which is where I've been holding back on getting to the really cool stuff there, Josh, is let's take that story from Lacey's operation and generate a video. This is something we're not doing yet. I live on LinkedIn right now because that's, we're B2B, heavy B2B, 70% desktop audience, we're Monday through Friday stuff. What are you doing? Josh, you just took the story URL, you're popping it in here, and you're on this tool called Vid. Am I correct? And
that's right. And it takes, it'll scrape the different images from the article. So that'll provide you with the baseline of the video that you want to create. It's anything from 6 seconds all the way to 3 minutes. This is the current tool we have. We're about to release the version 2, which has a lot more capabilities based on feedback from actually Lacey and Dan and their teams and a whole bunch of others. But right now, fundamentally, what you're about to see is the ability to take an article and create a video in real time. We're going to create it in less than 5 minutes, depending on how much we want to do. And what that provides you with is the ability to reach not only your audience with a video across a lot of what you're trying to do, but reach audiences who don't read, right? So we all know that that's a problem. We all know that story depth, reader depth is declining. And we all know that there's a lot of channels where a video is more optimized than an article to try to get attention. So we just want to make this dead simple to drive people and drive traffic and drive interest and engagement back to wherever you want to drive them, whether that's your site to a social channel, even using this to take, and this is my favorite use case, a lot of your articles that are evergreen and work very well, transform them into a video, recirculate them on site, and you're just going to get a ton more traffic that way too. And then if we want to be very advanced with this, which we do, let's talk about programmatic CPMs. If you have programmatic set up on your site, article CPMs are $1 programmatically, video or let's say 8 to 12 to be conservative. So what you're seeing there is also another way in which you can take the same effort, to Lacey's point, use journalists to do the job of journalism, to tell stories about the communities that we serve. Like that's what they should be doing. If we can take their ability to do that and transmute that into every different way in which you can engage with an audience, you're just going to make more money. You're going to actually serve your mission a lot better too, because you're just going to be telling that story to more people. So that's the goal of this. And Evan's just created a video, as I've been telling you about why we wanted to make it.
Lacey, are you using these videos somewhere when you create them? What do you do with these?
Yeah, we put them on Facebook because it helps break up the variety of content that we put onto Facebook. We use TikTok, most of our sports content. We have better photography typically for sports content than we do for city commission meetings, right? So our sports content, our sports editor has a goal this week to put 3 videos on TikTok every week. And it's just, we're trying to capture new audience. We're trying to appeal to folks who maybe aren't going to, come to the site and find it that way, but can they discover our coverage and what we're doing in the channels where they are, right? We got to find readers where they are, and younger readers, younger demographics, they are on TikTok and they're watching videos, and that's how they're consuming information. And so how do we bring them to this and maybe bring them into sports, maybe get them to pay attention to, full day kindergarten, that sort of thing, through using video instead of just trying to get them to read, a full article.
What about you, Dan? Are you doing things with video on your in your Colorado sites?
Yeah, we are a little bit, primarily with sort of longer read stories. We're running them through the vid tool and, creating these videos that we can then embed onto the article page itself. We haven't, used them as much on social media. We probably should be doing that a little bit more. But just we use it more focusing on time on page to increase those numbers higher.
All right, let's address some of the questions here. I think Vince has got an interesting question. He's saying, okay, I see that this is all being used for digital, but what about, can this just help me get a better print product out? Josh, I mean, what if you're just, you're worried about just editing better? Or is this tool designed specifically on a real-time use for digital delivery, Josh?
It is. I mean, that was its use case. I think what we're seeing is the brief tool that we showed you earlier really being the best use case for print. So when you're trying to find the right fit for all the stories that you're trying to publish in the print, that is a very significant time saver tool. So taking all those stories, manipulating them, because I think what Evan showed you was a paragraph and then 3 bullet points, but you can make that into 1 sentence and 1 bullet point, and a 3 or 4 headline optimization. So functionally what that does is allow you to place a lot more stories in a print publication than I think you would be able to do without a lot of time spent from an editor trying to narrow down exactly what that story's key kernels was about.
All right, we have another question, which I like. It's an anonymous attendee who said, we have problems finding people to write for us, or even people who can write a sentence. I agree. This can help fewer people do more. The answer is yes, 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 and yes. And I'll give you an example myself, Mr. Anonymous or Ms. Anonymous. I'm not a writer. I never proposed to be a writer, and I can't be a writer. I couldn't put two words together. I'm a sales guy that's publishing a magazine, but I do host a very, very popular vodcast series where I'm good at interviewing. Well, hopefully you think so. I'm not doing it right now because I came from the talent side in radio originally, then television. Now, after I do an interview, what I've been doing lately is immediately putting that interview, the MP4 file, actually I converted to MP3 because it loads quicker, into Scribby to get what's called the audio transcript of the interview. And that is done in about 2 hours, maybe 3. When I have the audio transcript, I'm learning now to use that brief tool. See it on the right? And I was trained on this by John on the NOTA team to just simply take that interview, that back and forth Q&A, and it automatically generates a story for me. Think about how that's time saving. If you conduct an interview with someone, ask the right questions, and then simply throw it in here in order to get it, you could be saving tons of time of having to write up the interview. Am I making sense, Josh? It's a massive time saver for me when I'm done, because I love doing the interview. I hate doing the write-up after the interview, if that makes sense, because that's a time sink. That used to take me an hour to an hour and a half. Josh?
Yeah, that's right. We're also getting better at that. So we're getting better at transcriptions specifically so that you can create a lot of different elements based on the transcription, know who spoke. That'll help inform an article itself. We're actually looking at this specifically for local market TV. So News at 11, what if we take the transcription of that and make articles out of that instead of having to spend a lot of time transmuting that into those different stories? That's work that we're doing right now. We're also working on a few other projects that I can't really mention yet, but just think about anything that's live video and how you would want to summarize what just happened into another format, and place that maybe into a newsletter, which is another product that we haven't even gotten to yet, which was probably the greatest frustration I had at the Los Angeles Times, which was we knew we had the subsegments all set and ready to go. You know, you like food and hikes, and you like opinion and world news. Never the two shall meet, right? So you both want newsletters that are specific to your interests. I only have 1 or 2 people that can make a newsletter. Newsletters take forever to make. Let's create a tool that allows you to make a newsletter super fast. So
that's
serving audiences is really, that's what apparently Evan's decided to just make that now. So he's just going to make a newsletter in the next 20 seconds or so.
All right, let's watch this, because I was going to ask a different question, but my newsletter is generated through my content management system and our tagging, which we're pretty comfortable with, but many people have trouble organizing their newsletters. So you're basically just going through here and adding articles. Is that?
That's right. He's using the browser extension instead of the dashboard, which you can use either one. And he's just adding articles from link. He just threw a few in there and just chose a lead image. And what it's going to do is do the same sort of summarization of as what you saw before. And then when it's done summarizing that, you can edit all of these things to your heart's desire, whatever you feel as if needs to be edited. You can change the writing tone. You can change the summary length of each of these articles within the newsletter. And then when you have the newsletter generated, like we see here, you can generate a summary of the summaries. So what's in the newsletter? Here you go. And then provides you with a lead for that.
Is it always in this format, Josh? Is this the way it always is going to look, or can you adjust the format?
So we're working on templates that are specific to everyone's use cases, depending on what email service provider you use. That's the next step. And then the next step after that is to work with your Parsleys and your Chartbeats of the world, and to say, these are the top 5 stories of the morning. Let's automate that process into this. And let's take that and generate a newsletter for you. You review it, you push it out.
So you can just grab the HTML. That's what we do. We generate it through our CMS, then just grab the HTML and pop it into ActiveCampaign. So I can do the same thing here now, or pop it into You just grab it.
And he just made that in less than a minute.
Now, but unfortunately, okay, this is fascinating. Then you can also noodle around in there. This is great.
Absolutely.
All right, so now let's circle back to Dan. Dan, before we started the program, I want to get into some nuts and bolts here. You mentioned that you're trying to train everybody up to use this. I hope I'm not speaking. I think we were in the green room chatting, if you might remember. But how is your team adapting to this? Are they all loving it, or you got some that are lagging behind others? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hit or miss. I mean, anytime you're trying to, um, make some sort of a cultural shift in workflow, I think you're going to have early adopters and you're going to have people who are lagging behind. But when we saw the tool and sort of envisioned how we would want to use it, we saw it like primarily as a tool that we could really improve our headlines and our SEO. And the point of the workflow where it made the most sense for us to do that was at the reporter level. And so we did big trainings with our reporters to get them access to it, show them how we wanted them to be using the tool. It's important, I think, for me to note, like, we don't do any we don't generate any content with NOTA that we're just publishing straight away. Like, we're not using the brief tool to write stories that are going up. We're using this strictly as a tool to help us do our jobs faster and better.
Right.
Like you would use spell check, a spell check tool. So we've got some people who are really adopting early, and they're putting their stories into NOTA prior to publication. We felt like the reporter is going to know the story the best, and so when they're looking at the headlines and SEO, they're going to know if that headline really captures the essence of the story. And make sure that it's accurate, and then it moves along down the line to the editor and the digital team. So that's sort of how we tried to implement it, and so we still got some people that we need to get using it more, but the people who are using it, they are seeing more eyeballs on their stories because the headlines are better. They're getting picked up more on search. And sometimes they're more shareable on social because they're coming up with maybe a different way to approach the headline. There's a section in the Sum tool called key points, and we pull out key points to be used as a subheadline, which is
Right.
going to of course help with SEO. So yeah, I mean, I think we're finding a lot of value and being able to sort of speed up that digital production that would normally take a lot longer, to Lacey's point earlier, and just allow our reporters to have more time to do what they do best.
How about you, Lacey?
Yeah.
Is every single person on your team using this, or just the editorial team when they do final edits? What's your workload like?
No, everybody uses it. And,
Every-
we've had really strong uptake with it. I have a younger staff, that helps. But for us, when we take on a new piece of technology, because our budget is so tight, it's like, well, folks, if I'm going to pay for this, we're going to wring every drop of value out of this that we can. And it helps us with breaking news a lot. So one of the stories that I saw Evan pulled for the newsletter thing was about a superintendent's contract being renewed, and it caused a big kerfuffle at a Board of Education meeting. So that happened in the evening, and I was on my way home from an event with my daughter, and my executive editor was at a concert for her son. And so it was like, all right, guys, let's get on here. We can get the headlines taken care of. We can move through this very quickly. And a process that would have taken us longer to get that story
Exactly.
live, you can do it from your phone. And it's moving through that process, and we're able to get that story up much more quickly. And the reporters go through, they're picking headlines, they're picking tags that they like, they're making sure the slug looks okay. That's part of their process. Then we go through as editors after that's already happened. We make sure that when you're in the proof tool, that we're getting an excellent rating for SEO. And I saw one of the comments that said, like, headlines should be written for readers. Yes, that is absolutely true. And I want to be clear, these are not clickbait headlines that NOTA suggests for us. We don't do that. That's not part of our process here at Link. We're pretty straightforward, I would say boring in the way that we write headlines. And so it's not suggesting that, but it helps with clarity. I think that reporters sometimes and editors sometimes will write very long headlines. And in digital, you have all the space you could possibly want. So why not do that? You're not trying to fit it to print like when I started my career. And so I think NOTA really helps cut to the clearest possible headline so that it works for both readers and for SEO, because we have to exist in the world that we live in now. And the world that we live in now means that if we want readers to see our content, it needs to be presented to them in all the ways that they can find
and in
it.
75 darn characters. You got to get it short. You got to get it to the point. And that takes, sometimes after you've worked and worked and worked, you're just too exhausted to be that creative.
Or you're too close to it. You've looked at it too many times and you can't even think about it anymore. And so this is that fresh set of eyes sometimes for it. And so, yeah, we've had really great uptake on it just because I think the reporters and the editors see what value it brings to their work. And we're certainly seeing it from, a searchability standpoint and people seeing our content, which is, it's what we need as a growing news organization. We have to get more people looking at our content.
All right, we're at the end of our journey here. So if there's any final thoughts, questions, get into that. I think we're using Q&A now. So just go into Q&A and or hatred or love, whatever you want to say to us, do so. Josh, if someone's interested in this product, this costs like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month. You have to fire a team of 6 to get it. I mean, you've developed the product and you're basically offering it, if I understand it, a pretty good rate, correct? I mean,
well, let's hope. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the mission of our organization, especially for us, is to provide it, at a rate that is accessible to literally everyone, the smallest newsroom to the largest. And we work with some of the largest as well. Our goal is this year is to just do exactly that, provide cutting edge technology to every newsroom in the country. And we know we have the technology. Hopefully we've proven that with the help of Dan and Lacey today. And I think the next step is to just talk to us and see what we can do. It depends on the size and scale of your organization, and we can provide you with the best discount possible as long as you reach out to us in May, because we are a business. So compute is very expensive, and cost of this stuff isn't going to stay super low for forever. So please reach out to us. You can reach out to Evan, who's Evan at Hey NOTA. You can reach out to me, which is Josh at Hey NOTA, or John. Guess what his is?
John
at Hey NOTA.
HEYNOTA.com.
That's right. Yep. See,
he's got it there somewhere. And throw that in the chat room too, if someone could do that as well, or in the Q&A. And that's 20% discount. But I know for a fact this is not if you have a very small newsroom, this is not a very expensive tool. This is something.
It is not at all. At all. I promise you.
And the neat thing also is the training is easy. It's not hard to learn. And you got a good team now there that will actually spend, I got on a calendar 30 minutes of John's time, and I was learning things I didn't even know I could do with this thing. So this is all good news. Any other final thoughts? Type into the Q&A. Evan, any final thoughts for any publishers out there that may or may not feel like they want to embrace AI? Give them a little.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of points to underpin, and there's a question that I want to address too. But again, as Josh mentioned, everything is very simple or Mike, as you mentioned, everything is very simple to use. We can get you launched in 60 to 90 minutes. We continue to take in your feedback and continue to create new features, functions, and tools that you all request from us. That, this is for publishers by publishers. And so you have an outsized advantage right now to join this community of publishers who are informing the future of the technology for this space. And so we really welcome all feedback. A couple of things that I wanted to just hit to address some of the, questions in the chat around AI, just in terms of allowing you as a publisher to be transparent with your audience. We do have something that was another user request. Hey, can we show an AI content policy where if I create a newsletter or if I create a brief using your tool, can I inform my readers that assistive AI was used in this process? And so we've enabled you to provide your readers with that information. We can add this kind of little blurb at the end of the output you create with our tool, and then you can link this back to any AI policy that you may have on your own site. Additionally, as it relates to being transparent with our image and video assets that we create leveraging AI. For example, this particular image was created using AI. We are C2PA compliant, and so that means we're providing that essentially that birth certificate of the creation of this particular image. You can go to contentcredentials.org and inspect the images created with NOTA and see that they have the certificate of authenticity, and you can trace the creation back to us. And so that's just another way to stay ahead of the game, make sure that we are being transparent and open with our AI policies, and ensuring that, many mis and disinformation is not going to be traced back to our, tools, because we want to make sure that we're above board in all that we do. And so, yeah, Josh, you got anything else you want to, I think last thing we have, as I mentioned, a few pretty cool, tools launching in the next 4 to 6 weeks. They're in very, very deep testing right now. And so we want to make sure they're operating right before we push them out into the world. But as I mentioned earlier, we have Tone Builder, which is going to allow you to create the tone of voice of your organization, and those outputs will align to those tones that you create. We've got a second iteration of our vid tool that's going to provide you with more editing functionality. Add your own video, add your own audio. You have the capability to just really make your own templates, and just a lot more functionality that you saw than today. And we've also going to be upgrading our image tool that we didn't get to show you. But again, please reach out to us, evan@heynota.com. We can set up a demo and just walk you through the entire tool suite and figure out what makes the most sense for you and your organization.
Josh, bring it home.
I just want to thank Dan, Lacey, and of course you, Mike, for allowing us this opportunity to get in front of everyone else. We've built these tools specifically for you. That's our job. We're making them better because of feedback from you. And I promise you that it won't break the bank. So we're doing everything we can to provide you with the ability to just really take AI and run with it. So reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you if we haven't.
And there we have it. Dan, I also want to thank you. Lacey, of course, Josh and Evan, thanks not only for your time, but supporting E&P. And remember, it's HeyNota, HeyNota.com. That's HeyNota.com. And with your kind permission, since I've got the screen back, I think it's appropriate to share at the end here, that is our May cover. And if you'll notice what it says right there in the center, I think that's very appropriate for the dialogue we've had today. Everybody have a good day. We wish you the best, and thanks again to our audience for their time as well. Take care.